Hey guys, Road Bullion back here with you. I just want to make a quick little video on Thursday. So the market's closed already for not by the time I'm recording this. So silver is closed at 1890, gold at 1661, platinum 874, and palladium at 2284. Silver down 9 cents, gold down 30 cents, platinum down $1, and palladium up 56 bucks. So went and took a little trip and grabbed what I could find locally. Got 4 tubes of just some single generic rounds, Republic metals. Nothing fancy, nothing special, but not bad. Still silver all the way. I mean, the rest of these tubes are still sealed, so I'm not even gonna open those. These ones still got a little bit of milk spots the farther you get down in the tube, but overall, still bullion. Good price, good deal. Can't pass it up, so not a bad thing. Don't mind them. Got a bunch of them, but they look good anyway. Still silver, still helps. Low premiums, really low premiums actually. Also grabbed some constitutional silver and a bunch of mercury dimes and stuff like that for on the cheap, just what they had. A lot of the local stuff that I've been seeing that's for sale, the constitutional is really selling at a very, very high premium, between 18 to 22 times face value. Um, Really wish I would have stocked up on it years ago when I was really starting this heavy stacking. But hindsight's 2020. It is what it is. Still a good deal as it stands. I think this is good for barter situations if it ever comes down to it, or smelting it down and whatever. Haven't gone through any of them to see if any of them have any other value other than just the fact that they're 90% silver. Same with these. I don't know why they're all in flip or all in cards, but we can go through them all and see what the mint marks and whatever else. Some of them you can't even tell. Like the date's so worn off. This one, who knows? Might be 90% silver, but might have lost 10% of its weight just in being rubbed off. So, well, we're in a very volatile time right now. We've all heard about what's going on in the UK, the London Bank having to step in, and Bank England, I mean, and buy up the bonds and just basically keep it afloat and keep everything going. And I think we're going to start seeing that here. I think we're just going to be last in line to take the beating when it comes to the currency really being devalued, or central bank, digital, whatever. I don't know enough about that stuff to really get into it, but there's definitely something to brewing. As I've talked before, I'm sure you guys have all seen and heard on many other channels that there's definitely something going on with the money supply. Every country's hoarding metals and everything else, but everybody's currency's tanking, and our dollar's strong because everybody else's is weak. So what happens when ours gets weak? Everybody else's is already weak, and now ours is weak. So I don't know what we're in store for, but while I can never overextend yourself, but I don't see this buying silver or even stocking up on food and essentials, just anything that you can think of that you can afford that you're going to need tomorrow, next week, next month. That it's probably going to be cheaper today than it is tomorrow. So, and that'll probably continue on for a while. So not a bad idea to stock up on anything else. One of the little thing I did want to touch on, I know if there's a lot of people out there that are just getting into stacking or feel like they're kind of late to the game. Another thing that I want to point out that I don't know if a lot of people look at or overlook, but is copper. It's cheap, but when you start talking about 30, 40, 50% returns, like that sounds great. And especially when it's on very small, investments. Like, obviously, I don't know if it's going to go to 30, 40, 50%, but there's definitely a worldwide shortage. There's definitely going to be more needed as more and more electric vehicles and green energy and all of that is being pumped in every single corner of the world. They need hundreds and hundreds of pounds per battery. I mean, they're finding ways to use copper so that they don't have to use silver in the batteries and trying to do that. So that means that this is going to go up. And with the cost of fuel and the cost of production and all of that, and silver usually being a byproduct of, copper mines and stuff like that, I think here in the next, 1 to 3 years, ish, this is going to really, give a good return per dollar, invested into it. Years ago when I used to do construction, I would just pick up all these little scrap pieces like this, just on the job site. All from electricians. I would do the punch list and go in and finish out the houses, and all this little scrap stuff like this. I just collect it and throw it in the bed of the truck, and every month I'd take it to the scrap yard and cash it in. And I mean, this was 20 years ago, and I mean, it brought in a couple extra $1,000 a month easy. I don't remember what I was getting for it back then. But it's definitely, it's definitely a good commodity. I mean, all the metals are definitely going to go up. They're desperately needed for so many things, and so many more things that are on the horizon that all these governments are pushing for, especially ours. You look here in the electric vehicles and all that. I mean, here in California, they say that all cars will be electric by 2035. I doubt that'll happen, because obviously we can't even charge all the cars that are on the road right now because of the power grid. But set that aside. I mean, depending on the car, I mean, you read it's anywhere from 150 to 400 to 500 pounds of copper that's used in some of these batteries, and multiple hundreds of pounds of silver sometimes can be used. There just aren't things that conduct like these do, and they are the cheapest alternative. The problem being is that with the rising fuel costs and all that it's getting, it's not worth the production costs. They're breaking even basically, or losing money, and nobody's going to operate a business at a loss. So I think there's going to be a very, very low amount that's going to be mined, and obviously has been for the last, say, year or three, just because of COVID and all the restrictions and this and that. But you're hearing a lot more mines starting to, ramp up or starting to get big, but it takes an average of about 15 years from the point of finding a new mine till it's operational and functioning and producing. So it's, 15 years is a long time for there to be a shortage, especially with what is, coming down the pipe as far as, electric vehicle, green technology, all of that. So I think this is a good one too. If you can't afford to get in on gold, or if you can't find gold or whatever, like don't overlook this stuff. Obviously this is just a novelty piece because it's kind of funny, but just it's this, just that little wire. I mean, it's clean copper like that is definitely worth saving, melting down, and holding on to. I mean, especially if you are a construction worker or have access to it for free. I'm not stealing it, but just finding it, or whatever, or renovating buildings instead of throwing it away. It's worth keeping. I mean, I keep bins and bins of it from just over the years, and then I get to a point where I'll sit down and I'll run it all through the stripper and get it all down like this, where it's clean copper, instead of burning the, a lot of people burn the coating off of it, which is just disgusting. But it's not worth as much anyway at that point. But depending on what you want to do with it. But even in this form, I mean, I could take a couple totes of this right now, right down the street, and go sell it, no questions asked. Bing, bang, boom. He'd be happy to take it all day long. A lot of other metals they're not even paying for. I took over 300 pounds of steel there. They didn't even, I was just trying to dump it. It saved me not having to take it to the dump, but they weren't even paying for it. They wouldn't even take it. Same with aluminum. Aluminum was really down at that point. I don't know what it is now. This was about a week or two ago. But there's definitely going to be a shortage, I think, coming up. We got a lot of factors that are suppressing a lot of people that are going to be working in the mines, and just the production costs. I mean, the cost of fuel. I mean, look at diesel. Every one of those trucks is run off diesel. The price of natural gas going up, the pipeline bursting, all that stuff. All these factor in to what is going to be happening when it comes to this kind of stuff. Everybody looks at these little small increments of, electricity markets or gas markets or metals markets, but that all is encompassed into one giant market, and that is our dollar market. And if that really starts to fail, that's when this stuff is really, really going to become very, very valuable, either as saving your wealth, preserving your wealth, trading, whatever you can do with it. It's going to be worth a lot more. It might get to a point where you could offer somebody $100 for a sandwich, and what are they going to do with a sandwich? You know what I mean? It's just not worth it. So it's definitely a good investment, as you've obviously seen that I do and I believe in and I talk about. But this is another one I don't want people to overlook. Don't forget about this. This is a very, very cheap way to make money in the future and even make money now, especially if you have access to it. Just throwing it, people would be throwing it away, or if you do home renovations or anything like that, is keep all your copper, keep all of it, and it's all worth something to somebody somewhere at some time. And the farther away that sometime gets, the higher chance that it's going to be worth more. I mean, don't go out and start buying $35 pound ingots off eBay or anything like that, or thinking you're going to buy one of these and pay a whole bunch of money for it and get some kind of return, because it's probably, I don't even know that little spree, but probably 20 times what the actual value of the actual metal inside of it is. But this is what I'm talking about. This, little transformers, anything like that, anything that's got copper, the same way they strip computers for the gold, anything that you can find that has copper in it, obviously don't go too crazy, and depending on what you value your time at, but saving up copper wire and stuff like that is definitely a good savings plan to just have, and then sit down on a weekend and run it all through the stripper. For I think I paid $130, something like that. Got a motorized wire stripper, tears right through it all. It's nothing. Damn, done, gone. Everything else, all the coating goes into the recycling. This goes into a pile soon to get melted down. Maybe I'll make some pours of some funny coins like this, or funnier, this is only a Bitcoin. Something funny though, something cool, just as a novelty piece. But it's definitely a good investment, not to be overlooked. Same with aluminum. I know it's bulky and it takes up a lot of room, but it's going to be worth something. There's going to be a shortage supply coming up. I don't think aluminum quite as much, obviously, as copper or silver or even gold. Gold, I mean, it's gonna continue to go up just because it's held as such a high reserve currency and stuff like that. But with the copper and the silver is very, very heavily needed in a lot of the plans that are coming up in the world in the next 5, 10, 15 years. So 13 years from now, by 2035, we're supposed to be driving all electric cars in California. I mean, how many millions of cars is that going to be supposed to be? And say each car takes 200 pounds of silver to run the batteries. Like if you look on Kitco today, there's an article about copper, that this is going to be the new lithium. Everybody's going to be scrambling to get this stuff because they're either trying to use this so that they don't have to use this because the supply of this is so limited, which that price is going to go up too, and then this is just going to skyrocket. A lot of these mines are operating at a loss or are shut down until they can start operating at a decent cost. Spot prices of stuff are so low that it's not economical to keep these mines running and these machines running all the time, with all these added costs and all the permitting issues and that whole thing. But yeah, I just wanted to put that out there. A lot of people, I see a lot of people on the channel getting into just starting to stack, or even friends of mine that I know that are just starting to get into it, or have only been into it for a couple months or maybe even a year, and feel like they might have missed out. I don't think so, especially not with the silver. Gold obviously a little bit more to get into, but I don't want people to overlook this right here. This is going to be, I think this is the same as my analogy with like silver to gold. Like, for the amount of money you would put in on one side worth of you spent on copper, and the amount of money you would get back out on the other side, the return, I think, will be higher than what it would be if you got gold and held on to it. And I think that the timeline will be shorter, assuming nothing crazy happens and gold doesn't absolutely double or triple in the next 6 months or a year or whatever it is. But I think dollar for dollar, this will give you a better return than a lot of other things. Same with silver. I mean, it's nothing for silver to go up 3, 4, 5%, and then drop back down or whatever. Moves like that in gold, it happens, but not usually, and it's over an extended period of time. We've all heard and talked and speculate and whatever about the the paper market and the silver being over leveraged and all that. So, it's only going to take a little time. The twig can only bend so much before it breaks. And I think what we're seeing with the pound and what's going on in the UK and just the pipeline burst and all that stuff is just more and more bending of that twig. And eventually it's going to break. We're going to be looking at a new rate hike coming up. That's we're going to feel those ripples too. All the car repossessions, mortgages, once, how long is, we're looking, 2022, 2020. So you figure somebody got a 2 to 3 year fixed mortgage and then goes back to an adjustable one, in the next 6 months or a year, you're going to start seeing a lot of foreclosures. I heard some statistics this morning that up to 8,000 cars are being repossessed per day in the United States. It's just insane. I mean, it's everybody rushed in with all this COVID money when the interest loans were super, super low and nobody thought about getting a fixed rate. I actually bought a truck during that time and got it's not a very good interest rate, but it's fixed. There's no penalty for paying it off early, and so by the time I get it paid off, I will actually be paying probably about 60 to 65% less than what the actual interest that I'm supposed to be paying on if I were to just pay it off, over the 72 months that the life of the loan is. So, yeah, it's worth just trying to clear up any debt right now, and keep my head above water, and make room to don't, like I said, don't overextend yourself. Only invest what you're willing to hold, or the old saying, only play with what you're willing to lose. I don't think you're going to lose on going into silver and stuff like that, especially if you have patience and you got a long enough time horizon to where you can hold on to it for a year to 3, 4, 5, anything like that. I mean, the longer you hold it, even if it doesn't skyrocket, your value is still going to be worth way more than what the money that you spent on it was when you bought it the years before. So that's my take on the whole thing, and I hope I'm right. I think I am. I put a lot on the line thinking that this is, definitely not overextended, but I think it's a good long-term investment. It's a good way to guarantee that if things get really, really bad, or our dollar does collapse or something like that, that I do have stored wealth. I would rather have this sitting somewhere that I can go and sell as needed than to have all my money sitting in a bank or something like that I then can't get out. Heard plenty of stories of people like that trying to withdraw, cash, anything over probably 5 or 10K, where they want you to schedule a pickup, or then at the last minute they call and say that there's problems with the paperwork and this and that and this and that. So that once you get that money to the banks, it's theirs until they give it back to you. So if you don't hold it, you don't own it, per se. So there can be a lot of things happen if a bank goes under, or we have something like the 2008 crash where bailouts are needed and the bailouts don't happen. I don't know what that scenario looks like for everybody having a bunch of money in a bank. I don't know how that goes. But it makes me feel good to know that I have this. I think this will always have some form of value somewhere, somehow. And just, everything that's going on in the other countries, trying to create their own metal exchanges, and just really, it seems like everybody's trying to get away from our dollar. The moment we weaponized it and started sanctioning everybody, and, just basically being a global bully about, the money system, that seems like it really, really started triggering that, and obviously the administration and a lot of their policies have not helped, but I digress. That's a whole other topic that I'm not going to talk about on here. This is about silver and investing and preserving your wealth. So just one reminder, you guys, don't overlook the copper. When it comes down to returns, that's all that matters. It doesn't matter if you get a 50% return or a 30% return or a 10% return, and that's off of $1 or $1,000. A 10% return on any amount of money is a good return. A 20% return, good return on any amount of money. You get a 20% return on even $1, that's a good return, like depending on how long you hold on to it, whatever, but it's not a bad deal. And then obviously you have inflation working backwards against you, so that it's even a better deal. yeah, I think I just wanted to put this out there. I think a lot of people overlook this. I saw a guy today at the dump just throwing away tons of this stuff, and I grabbed it, picked it up, threw it in the bed of the truck. Anything I throw away, I cut the cords off and keep it. It's all worth something to somebody sometime, and I'll be there to give it to them when they need it and when they want it and they want to pay me for it, or I'll trade it to somebody or do something with it. So just wanted to put that out there. You guys don't forget about this. So if you feel like you're late to the gold game or even the silver game, or you just want to slowly start stacking, don't have a lot of money, copper is not a bad thing to get into. I wouldn't suggest buying this type of stuff, but finding this kind of stuff or tearing apart other things that have copper in them. There's a lot. Alternators have a ton of copper in them. Look at what people are doing with the catalytic converters and all that stuff. I mean, we used to do that when I was a kid. I used to scrap catalytic converters and take all the copper out of them. So it was worth it back then. I mean, that was 30 some years ago doing that. Like it was worth it then. It was worth it 20 years ago when I was picking it up doing the construction site, and it's still worth it now. There was bins and bins and bins of this stuff at the scrap yard. So it's definitely highly sought after, and there's definitely going to be a shortage. So just, don't overlook it. It's there, if you can find it, it's picking pennies up off the ground. You obviously don't want to light dollars on fire to pick up nickels, but this is free money just laying around. So no reason not to do it, not to pick it up, and not to go for it. So if you like this, drop me a comment below, give me a thumbs up and a subscribe, and once I hit that 1,000 subscribers, I'm going to do a 10-ounce silver bar giveaway. I'll break out some old vintage ones, some nice collector pieces you guys can pick from, and I'll pick a winner. So yeah, give me a thumbs up and a like, man. I appreciate it. All right, see you guys later.